Hi everyone, it's Joe here from Lawn Solutions Australia and welcome to this episode of Turf Talk, where if you're looking on video, you'll notice me and Nathan are dressed a little differently today. We're pretty excited. Footy season kicked off, so we thought we'd dive into a couple of sports topics today.
That's it. We've got our footy jerseys on. Apologies to anyone who hates Manly, but I am a Manly supporter.
99% of the viewers.
Unapologetically a Manly supporter. So today we're going to talk about the NRL kicking off, the AFL kicking off. We might even touch on, obviously, the NRL ventured over to Vegas for round one for two games as well. So,
and the F1, which surprisingly has a bit to do with grass.
Exactly. So, I think I was definitely looking at the grass of the F1, so we'll touch on that as well today. A bit about what's happening in Australia as far as lawn care and the weather. Definitely some issues people are experiencing commonly with their lawns at the moment. And, so there's a lot going on, so let's get into it.
The season kickoff for the NRL. The season kickoff technically was not last weekend, but the weekend before with the well-publicised visit to Las Vegas, which is their third year, I think.
I think it's the third year. All I know is Manly was the first year.
They win that? They
did well.
Beat the Bunnies. Memory, is that right?
I think so. They did well. A lot of blood in that game.
So for anyone that checked it out, even if you're not a rugby league fan, I'm sure you saw some of the coverage around it. It's a pretty cool spectacle. That stadium, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, is something to behold. 70,000 seat stadium, climate controlled environment. But we're obviously here today to talk about the grass, and the grass in this particular situation, or the turf surface in this particular situation, is pretty cool. It's built on a retractable tray system, because the issue with a lot of stadiums you see, and the MCG is an example of this in Australia, so Suncorp, the way the stands are built, the actual amount of light that is available to the grass is very limited because of the way the stadium's structured and the wear and tear that these stadiums get now. I know you've only got to look at what happens to Suncorp on a day-to-day basis. Episode 46, we chatted to Matt Oliver about the pressure that stadium managers are under these days, and you put that in with dappled light. They have to counteract that some way. In Australia, they use things like grow lights to grow the grass. Yep. But how does Vegas tackle this issue?
It's unlike anything we have in Australia, what they've got at Allegiant Stadium. Obviously, with a stadium like that, the grass is just never going to get the sunlight it needs to thrive. A lot of games, a lot of NFL, maybe not as much wear as possibly an NRL game would cause, but definitely a lot of wear there to a natural turf surface. So, the contraption they have essentially to basically wheel it in and out within, I think it's 30, 40 minutes, or maybe a touch longer if I'm wrong there. But being able to do that enables them to basically put it in full sunlight, get the optimal performance of the grass to whatever they can outside of the stadium and just wheel it back in. It's kind of phenomenal. The weight of that surface being so heavy, being able to do that.
We've got some figures on that here now because it's pretty incredible. So the field is on a 4 foot, like a bit over a metre deep tray. So all the irrigation, the subsurface drainage and everything is built on. So it's a proper profile, but it's on a retractable tray. It weighs just under 10 tonne. And like you said before, I think it's 30 or 40 minutes to wheel it out. So what they do is they play the game.
9,500 tonnes.
What do I say?
10 tonnes.
It's a bit heavier than 10 tonne. Just under 10,000 tonne.
Yeah, and if anyone likes the imperial system, around 20 million pounds.
20 million pounds. There you go. So, just a little bit more than 10 tonnes. So, what they do when they finish the game is they roll the field out into the Las Vegas sunlight, because what they do then is they get full sun. They can treat it like a turf paddock, essentially. It's out in the open. They can irrigate it. They can get all the light into it. They can get the proper water into it. They can control their fertility a lot easier. And when game day comes around, they pretty much press a button and the field rolls back into the stadium, and no one ever knows. So the actual surface in this is a little bit unique. So doing a little bit of research before this episode, I found out almost half, 14 out of the 30 NFL stadiums are artificial. But this one's a little bit different. NFL players typically don't like artificial surfaces. It's just the way the league's gone. They're more prone to injury on artificial surfaces. So this is a natural grass field. It's couch oversown with rye, but it has it's what they call a hybrid system. So it's a synthetic base with a natural turf over the top of it. And it's one of the most sought after stadiums in the NFL because of the quality of the surface. You only had to look at that NRL game to see how good this field actually was. And it's so great to see one of the center points, or one of the most important stadiums in world sport now, being Allegiant Stadium, is still played on natural turf. It's really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
There was a couple of different things though. I don't know if, again, we're into league probably more than the average person.
I think so.
It's safe to say there was some different dimensions for this to a normal NFL field, which caused the footy to be a little bit different. So a typical NFL field is about 50 metres wide, I think it is, maybe even a touch under 50 metres wide, and an NRL field 68 metres. So what they did for this particular field is they stretched it out to about 59 or 60, I think. So the field was a lot narrower. So the style of footy that had to be played was a little bit different, but the NRL generally needs more space around the field compared to the NFL. I wonder if it was something people noticed on TV. I'm not sure if it was that it was a little bit narrower.
I think you could tell, you definitely saw in the in goals that if they're going for a running full stretch into the corner for a try or whatever, that they're going to probably cause themselves a mischief if they go too heavy in there. And I know, especially in leading into the first year of doing it, they were very much aware of the field dimensions being smaller and training to accommodate that with their kicks and things like that.
Yeah.
Looking at how much space they had to their wingers and riding the line there. So it's definitely had an impact on the game and the way they play it. But yeah, at the end of the day, they just got to play on the field that's available to them. It creates quite a spectacle. But sports fields around the world are very much like that. We're lucky enough to go to Old Trafford in the UK, and it's very much the same thing. There's not much between the first row of seats and the soccer field actually starting. And it's quite common with the NFL as well. So, yeah, with those contact sports, it can get pretty sketchy.
I got a shock. You mentioned Old Trafford, and also I watch a bit of Premier League as well, as do you. And when they're taking corner kicks, they virtually have to run up a small hill.
It's a little hill. It's really strange.
There would be, 2 meters between the edge of the playing surface and the barriers, and it wasn't too dissimilar to this. But the only thing I got out of Vegas was the Dragons got absolutely rorted towards the end of that. It was not a strip, it was a loose carry, and I will ride that to my
50-50 calls, unfortunately, don't always go.
It was a 90-10 call and it went against us. But overall, the surface looked unbelievable. It's really, really cool to see, again, a natural turf system standing up and just looking so good. I don't think there was even a scuff mark. But
it looked immaculate on TV. We have a little bit to do with the universities and the turf producers over there that do these sort of grounds, and we're familiar with the grasses that are used on these fields. Always a new sort of hybrid technology. Couch grass is in play. They change them out quite regularly, even though they're able to maintain them to a high standard, particularly on Allegiant by bringing it out. They still bring in fresh turf, freshly grown on the farm, specifically for those games and those fields, with a lot of money and investment into those fields to make sure they're absolutely Mickey Mouse. So,
if you're a bit of a turf nerd, well, you're listening to this, I'm guessing you are, to a slight degree, go on YouTube and check out how the stadium rolls in and out, the surface rolls in and out of Allegiant Stadium. It's really, really cool. I think it's about 30 or 40 minutes from memory. That could be horribly wrong, like my 10-ton was before. But it's something certainly that is really, really cool and worth looking at. Now, back to the traditional rugby league heartland of the east coast of Australia, NRL round 1. Again, just focusing on the surfaces, it's so cool to see natural turf absolutely thriving. And just to explain a little bit about the natural turf surfaces that we see around the place now, again, episode 46 with Matt Oliver, we'll go into a little bit more detail over this. But I think all the NRL stadiums are now hybrid systems, or the vast majority of them are. What that is there's a few different versions of this, but it's basically a synthetic turf layer with natural turf stitched or sewn in over the top. So what happens with that is the synthetic turf gives the natural turf its stability, but also if you wear a patch in it, the synthetic fibres are still standing up, so it still appears green for TV. But what they do now, instead of just having, couch or probably kikuyu back in the day was on a lot of NRL fields, they oversow them all with ryegrass, which is a cool season blend, and they transition the stadiums in and out. So what ryegrass is a cool season grass, so it germinates around Anzac Day sort of thing and goes through till about October, which is about the footy season. So they oversow, and they can continue to oversow through the year to maintain that colour and that look for TV. What that does give sometimes, though, if you ever watch, for example, the Broncos at Suncorp, that's a couch grass field oversown quite heavily with ryegrass for beautiful colour. It looks amazing, but they play a lot of Friday nights, and you will see when it gets dewy, the surface is too do tend to get a lot more slippery with the ryegrass. But what you don't see now in NRL, I know you would have checked out the old footage, is mud on jerseys.
That's it. No, the drainage systems, everything that goes into setting up that field to perform and hold up to the traffic pressures is insane. And, yeah, a big part of that is the hybrid systems now, I believe, as well as obviously improved drainage systems. So I believe a lot of the grounds will probably be oversowing rye soon, or if they haven't already, depending on how far north they are. So it's an interesting phase they go through starting the season, still in the warmer months where the ryegrass hasn't fully germinated or been sowed yet.
Yep.
But as you obviously being a winter sport, essentially, they go into that period, and the ryegrass definitely is the predominant grass that you can see the colour from.
I think some stadiums are rye oversow almost year round now too, because what they can do is, for example, there were some issues with some sports turf surfaces in Sydney last year, mainly the new stadium out there. What do they call the new? Is it Accor or Allianz? Allianz, I think, had some issues. But what they can do now is they can change the turf surface within a day or a day and a half. Like, it's incredible. So if there are any issues or the ryegrass wears out or it's just not looking so good, instead of trying to rejuvenate it now, they're on such tight schedules, they literally just returf it, and it's instantly ready for play within sort of 24 hours.
They've got a few concerts scheduled in. They time that resurfacing straight after. So obviously that's going to cause a lot of damage being under matting for a few days straight. So that's a good time to fix it up.
The other thing that helps with NRL and also the AFL now too is most of the professional teams now have high-performance academies or purpose-built training facilities. So the only sport that generally gets played on a lot of these stadiums is game day, and also captains run the day before. So whilst the wear and tear is severe, a lot of these stadiums, the level of play they get is actually pretty minimal. Suncorp's an obvious exception to that because they host Queensland Reds, they host the A-League, they host the NRL, and a host of other things. So it's pretty incredible that Matt and his team there keep the surface they do with so much wear and tear.
Speaking of the Dragons and Wynn Stadium, I know they've got a very similar situation. They've got the training field right next door there at Wollongong, so I think the amount of traffic or training that goes on the main field is very limited. I know they've got SG Ball and things like that as well, and the women's team, but I think what they how much play is actually played on that main field is very, very structured and very limited, so that when they are ready to go for their first home game, it's looking perfect.
It's an incredibly high standard of training over there too, I've heard, the Red V. AFL now. AFL is not exactly our wheelhouse. We're proud New South Welshmen and proud rugby league fans. But there is an overlap with AFL and cricket and the facilities they use, and I'm a bit of a cricket nerd, not so much your wheelhouse cricket, but it's quite interesting to do a bit of reading on the turf surfaces when it comes into AFL. The two main ones that come to mind, obviously, are the MCG and the SCG, but also up the stadium now has really come to the fore. It's hosted a couple of State of Origins and rugby league games, but it is a tremendous stadium, tremendous turf surface.
Oval stadiums in general, you see them on TV, especially when they're doing like a day-night cricket game or whatever. The lighting is just immaculate. The Adelaide Oval, I think, is one, even the Optus as well. That time in the night time when the sun comes over, the sky's lit up pink and purple. It's nothing better than that spectacle.
The Adelaide Oval's cool.
It's
always one that sits pretty high up in my book. It's huge, I believe, oversown with ryegrass, and it's always a beautiful surface. Now, the MCG is quite unique because we speak about the couch bases with oversown with rye. I went on an MCG stadium tour a couple of years ago, and I was a little shocked to find out it's straight ryegrass now. It's a hybrid system, so it's got the synthetic fibres, but it's sown year round with the straight ryegrass. But when we were there, they use a lot of grow lights. They can't wheel the MCG out on a platform and look after it in the full sun and wheel it back in. So it's done using grow lights. Now, these are ultra high UV lights. They get dragged around the stadiums. Again, jump on YouTube. You'll see a lot of the Premier League stadiums use them. A lot of the stadiums in Australia now use them just to give artificial sunlight to these surfaces year round. So the MCG straight rye, but their transition from the cricket season to the footy season is a little easier, as they have what is known as a drop-in wicket, where they literally curate these pitches off-site and then bring them in. Strathair, a Lawn Solutions member, actually have the machine that does this.
Pioneered that with the Megair system. Basically, massive system, massive wheels. Just drops in the entire pitch and you're ready to go from there. It's if we talk about checking out videos, that's a pretty impressive one to go check out as well. It's pretty crazy how they're able to do that.
We were at the Adelaide Oval one day for a turf conference, and it was the day the pitch changeover was in, and we went and had morning tea and came back out a couple of hours later, and it was in. And they'll I'm sure they'll be playing cricket on it a few days after that. So it's pretty cool to see. And the SCG is a little different, though. It's one of the only grounds, professional cricket footy grounds in Australia now. I don't know about the Gabba. I don't know if the Gabba's dropping or not, but the SCG still doesn't have a drop-in pitch. They're quite resistant to that change, the curators there, because they like the uniqueness that the SCG wicket brings. And for all those cricket fans out there, you'll know the SCG was traditionally a spinner's wicket. The Australians used to play McGill and Warne at the same time because they liked how much the SCG turned, and that was because it wasn't a drop-in wicket. So they want to keep some of those traditional characteristics there. But when it comes to transition to footy season, there is a lot more work involved, obviously. The cricket wicket gets quite damaged through the football season, so the curators pretty much have to leave it alone and let them play footy and oversight with ryegrass, so you can't see the effect of it on TV too much. And then when the footy season finishes and cricket season rolls around, they've got a very, very short window to curate that wicket and getting up and running. So the work that they do there is pretty incredible. But I'm not going to dwell too much on the AFL. I know we'll have a lot of people from Victoria listening to this, but I know very little about it, so we'll pretty much finish that there. Who won? I don't even know who won on the weekend. The Swans win?
I follow the Swans a little bit. Swans got up, big win. I think they'll have a good year this year. Obviously, being New South Welshmen, that's probably my local AFL club. GWS as well. I think there's a few supporters of them around as well. I'll probably catch the game at the SCG this year if I can.
Before we move away from the NRL and AFL, Premier's predictions, both codes. We'll come back in, check in this and later in the year. You first.
I think the NRL is probably a bit predictable. Not so much exactly who's going to win, but I think Melbourne, Penrith and Broncos are going to be all up there again. I think there was a few predictions on the Roosters coming back up there, but their first game was, it's hard to say how that's going to sort of come together with Cherry Evans. Being a Manly supporter, that's great to see. Yeah. Manly, I don't know. They'll be thereabouts. Who knows? Depends on injuries a little bit. I think most people are predicting them to come bottom of the table. I don't think they'll be that far down there, but I think they might miss the 8. We'll see.
Who's going to win the flag, as they call it?
Who's going to win the flag? If I put my money on it, I'd probably put it on the Storm. I think they're due. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Anyway, it's Penrith by the length of the Flemington Straight. You heard it here first. No one will get anywhere near them this year. If the Dragons aren't going to win it, sorry.
I thought you were going to say the Dragons,
I think Penrith and then Daylight second. AFL, I'm going to throw one out of left field here for you. I think Freo are going to win it this year. I know nothing about the AFL. I just got a feeling that Freo are going to win it.
We'll put money on that one later.
Money on that one. About 11-1, I checked.
I'm not sure. I've been following the Swans pretty closely the last couple of years, and they've been a bit hard to watch, a bit up and down. But yeah, things are looking good this year, so I'll put them down.
Nate's got the Storm and the Swans. I have the Panthers and Freo. I have absolutely no idea why, but we'll stick with that. But moving away from the footy codes and talking about an event that happened over the weekend that you don't normally associate with turf, and that's the Formula One Grand Prix in Albert Park in Melbourne.
Yeah, I watch a lot of the F1. It's a difficult sport to watch when it's on in the middle of the night. But yeah, seeing the grass there at Albert Park, we saw earlier in the week that Strathair, once again, a turf producer, LSA member from Victoria, had been putting in some turf around the park where required, which was pretty cool to see. But yeah, you don't normally think of it. Some of the European tracks and even Middle Eastern track, you see a lot of the synthetic material or rubber composite things on where grass might normally be. Yep. I know Silverstone has a lot of grass as well. But yeah, obviously it's a motor racing, but the grass definitely stands out on TV when it looks good.
And whilst motorsport obviously is on the bitumen, it's on the road, it's quite brutal on turf. There's so much stuff that happens outside of the main track. Camera crews, what do they call the area in F1 where all the cars park?
Pit lane or
whatever the paddock, whatever they call it. There's so much moving parts, trucks, cameras, grandstands, all that sort of stuff, and it absolutely trashes the turf at Albert Park. And
you see the cranes, the JCB cranes come over to pick up the cars when they've had a prang and things like that. Obviously a lot of weight and equipment that goes over the grasses there. Heat stress, a lot of heat reflection as well. So tough spot for grass to go.
Keep an eye out on Strathair's socials. I reckon they'll be posting a bit of the pre-work and also the restoration work that goes on at Albert Park. And while we're tipping things, poor old Oscar, our boy Oscar, crashed out on the weekend. Was that it? That was in the
formation lap.
The formation lap.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I had a tear in my eye. That's he just can't catch a break at his home GP, unfortunately. So
who's going to win that?
Who's going to win this year?
Yeah.
Oh, I think George's pretty.
That Mercedes car was a rocket ship on the weekend.
Mercedes are very strong. Ferrari might, come through a little bit as well. Depends what happens. I think a lot of Australians are probably sort of barracking for McLaren to do well. There's a lot of support in the crowd down there in Melbourne, but I just think they're a bit off the pace.
Who's Valtteri driving for this year? Who's been there?
Bottas.
Yeah.
Valtteri Bottas.
Is he with Audi?
Is it Audi or Cadillac? Which one it is?
I'm going for Bottas, but I think someone in one of those Mercedes cars
adopted Australian. Yeah, we'll go for Bottas.
We'll go for Bottas.
He had a rough weekend as well.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. But moving away from sport chat, I know me and Nathan had a discussion off air beforehand where we're more than happy just to talk about footy here every week, but we probably can't do that. We've got to chat a little bit more about the turf market at the moment, the weather that we're experiencing on mainly the east coast of Australia at the moment has been quite difficult to manage turf. There's been a lot of rain. We're here in Berry on the south coast of New South Wales, and we had 100 mil or so last week over the last 4 or 5 days. It was quite heavy, but we're getting a lot of heat and a lot of humidity after that rainfall. So it's causing a lot of issues. The main issue it's causing, whether you see it as an issue or not, is rapid lawn growth.
The humidity is just, we're not used to experiencing humidity for extended periods up in the 90% plus. It's just not common for our climate. So, when you combine that with rainfall, grass is just absolutely going bananas. I know anywhere I see Kikuyu at the moment, it looks like it needs mowing 2 days after it's been mowed. If you've got a couch grass lawn and you're trying to keep it manicured and short, you're obviously going to have to mow that more frequently as well. So it's great grass growing weather essentially, but it's almost too good to maintain the health and performance of your lawn consistently if you're not getting out there and mowing it as frequently as you should. So that humidity is a big thing. We're seeing a lot of mushrooms popping up. People are starting to get concerned about seeing those quite regularly and consistently. So obviously conditions don't help, and there's not a lot you can do when conditions just persist and it continues to rain. But obviously, if you were irrigating, back off the irrigation, make sure you're not doing it at night, all those sort of things. Make sure you're mowing frequently, use your catcher, don't leave too much clip on the profile. All these things are going to help during these sort of times. That's
great advice. And mushrooms has probably been the number one question we've had in the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks. I know if you look at our golf green out the back here, it's full of mushrooms as well. And we don't generally see them. It's a primo zoysia golf green, and it's not built on the best profile, but it's good enough. But we don't normally see mushrooms on that, and they're everywhere at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely everywhere. But put the catcher on, just catch them off. They're not anything particular to worry about, particularly during times like this. If you're getting mushrooms all the time when conditions aren't really prime for mushroom or fungal growth, then you have to address your irrigation practices and your maintenance practices. But when environmental factors are like this, there's limited things you can do. But at the end of the day, they're not going to harm your lawn.
No, it's nothing to panic about. They're usually a sign of, good soil mass, good soil biology. So if you see your mushrooms, just get the mower and the catcher and mow them off, and you can get on your life. Don't eat them. Is probably the main piece of advice there.
On that, we get asked quite regularly to identify particular mushrooms that we see. Look, I only know the odd type of mushroom, not most of them. If you're concerned about mushrooms and your pets, which is a big thing that we get in eating them, maybe consult with your vet because, if you can identify it with the tools that are available now with AI and things like that, absolutely identify it. Make sure if it's not, one of the hazardous things in your yard that you need to remove so that you keep them away from your dogs. But yeah, we get that question a lot, and I know a little bit about mushrooms, but I'm no biologist.
Not confident enough to see how it goes with your dog. No, check with your local vet. Great advice, and we've got something that's we've spoken about quite a bit on this podcast lately, but we're really, really excited about, and that is the pending release of Stampede Hybrid Buffalo. We've seen some wonderful things at this time of year with the performance of Stampede. With humidity often comes disease, particularly in softleaf buffalo lawns, and there are many types of softleaf buffalo that we keep an eye on here that have some form of disease at the moment, where it's a little bit of leaf spot or something like that. Stampede seems to be almost totally, disease-free so far in a pretty disease-heavy environment. So that combined with its natural colour makes us pretty excited about what Stampede can bring. There is a limited release around at the moment in certain markets, so you can contact your local grower, but the main release of Stampede is coming up in spring of this year. Now, if you do watch a little bit of TV, you might have heard of The Garden Gurus, which is a show on Channel 9 featuring our old friend Nigel Ruck, who's also been on this podcast.
We had Nigel on pretty early on, I think, from memory. I'm not sure exactly on the episode, but yeah, Stampede featured on the very first episode of season 25 of The Garden Gurus. So check that out now on 9 Now. A little bit of insight to what's been going on with us and behind the scenes with turf production, because it's been a big year for us for Stampede and everything going on with the growers. We've visited a lot of growers and heard feedback on how the grass is performing, seeing things like disease and how it's just basically unaffected during these conditions, which are optimal for disease. So that's awesome to see. Things that we see during our R&D and the turf breeding process, but actually being able to see them out in the paddock and live in action and seeing those performance results is great for us to see. But yeah, we're looking forward to a spring launch for Stampede. But yeah, Stampede's going to be a big release for us later in the year in early 2027. But if you want to learn a little bit more about Stampede or find out when it's going to be available in your area, reach out to your local Lawn Solutions Australia accredited member. They're going to be your main focal point of information on the grass specifically to your area. Obviously, Lawn Solutions Australia, we're going to give you a bit of information about the grass and how it's going, but as to whether it's going to become available exactly when, your local member's the point of contact for that.
Absolutely. And most of them, if not all of them, now have some planted, some have some ready, some are still in the growing phase, but it'll all be ready pretty soon. Now, I did watch Mick there, who runs this show for us. He went to have a look at the Nigel Ruck episode. That is one of the laziest things I've ever seen. He stopped scrolling and gave me the gesture like he couldn't be bothered to scroll anymore when he literally only has to scroll. So thanks for absolutely nothing again, Mick. But I think that covers just about everything we wanted to chat about today. Again, if we get some feedback that you want more footy talk, we will happily oblige whenever you want, particularly if it's about the Dragons.
One last thing I might quickly jump on, Joe, before we finish up. 2 weeks' time, we've got MIFGS, the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. Lawn Solutions Australia attends and has a really big display and stand every year down there in Melbourne. So we'll be there again very soon. So if you are in the area or thinking about going, come check it out. Jason Hodges, LSA ambassador, has also got a pretty impressive display there as well that's going to be on. So, definitely check it out.
Come and chat some turf. You're there over the weekend this year?
I'll be there over the weekend on the Saturday, Sunday. You'll be there all the time probably, I imagine.
I'll be in and out and up and down around. So if you do want to come say g'day, please do. If you do listen to the podcast, please let us know as well. We'd love to chat to you about your lawn and see where we can help, or just have a general chit chat, and you might be able to help us with some things. But again, anytime you want to talk footy, you let us know, Nathan. We'll be back on and doing it. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, Joe.
So back onto the Ethan Sanders field goal shape.
So we didn't even talk about that.
I have a little bit of an idea about how teams can do this, because it's quite an issue. The Dragons had a massive issue with this in Vegas in round one, where you set up for right post if you got left post if you got a right footer kicker, right post if you got a left footer kicker, and they stand 15 metres behind the ruck. Markers are offside. The ref's not going to blow a penalty, but the pass, it takes too long to fire the pass back, even though they're very, very good at it. And if you get a good set, you say you play the ball in the 30, you're still kicking from 40 to 45 out and you're under pressure. I love what the Raiders did, how he just sat up on the ad line. They weren't expecting it. They were thinking maybe a bomb to the corner or something, and he just plugs one from 40 out. But I've got an idea, if any NRL coaches are listening. You set up at the black dot. You don't go left post, right post. You set up at the black dot. You get your premier kicker to stand where he would stand for a field goal. So you've got marker, AB, they're pointing, they're screaming at the guy kicking the field goal. You get your secondary kicker just, a metre from the ruck on the short side. Dummy half, shapes the pass back to the main kicker. Little between the legs pass, straight to the guy standing a metre to the right of the ruck on the ad line. You'll have all the time in the world just to plug one over. Thoughts?
My thoughts on this are, just for everyone listening, Joe is a very experienced footballer, captain coach for the Berry Magpies. So this information should not be surprising. He's full of some great ideas. So from a Manly perspective, the Raiders did a good play there. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
We're not recording, so it doesn't matter, is it?
Are we? I think we are.
100% recording.
Yeah, 100% we are.
Here's what I'm talking. Kicker, let's say that's the 30, that's the 40, that's normally where you would set. Eyes are there. Just plonk a little fella here.
One of those overhead cameras.
A little between the legger.
Yeah, so look out for this play in the Berry Magpies this year. It's going to
I've
roll it
sensed
out.
that, yeah.
How many field goals do you have to? Is it common to be in that situation
no,
in a
yeah, by
local
40.
competition? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was actually being serious. I wasn't. You know,